going to live stream the webinar. I've got a nice little red line going across the screen. And we've still got everyone. Thanks guys for your patience. So welcome everyone to Pecha Kucha Leamington Spa. We are now live. Apologies for the delay. We expected to be here on live at 7:15, and so we're 15 minutes late. So we've got everyone here, because of the technical glitches, I'm just deflustering myself.
Hey everybody, I'm Jamie. I'm Sarah's co-host, and I've been employed to dive in at times when Sarah needs to catch her breath. So welcome to PK Leamington, the online edition. It's a pleasure to have you. We've got a chat box on YouTube where we want to hear your comments. We want to hear your banter, because otherwise I have to tell jokes, and as friends in the Pecha Kucha room already know, they are not good jokes. So please add a chat so that we can pick you up and we can share the stories. Sarah?
Thank you, Jamie. So we have 11 wonderful speakers here for you today, and we have two incredibly special guests. One from my street and one from Tokyo. So I'm Sarah Lowry. I'm the organizer of Leamington Pecha Kucha, and Jamie, as he has just said, is the wonderful co-host. Jamie spoke at one of the Leamington Pecha Kuchas and has also lived in Leamington as well. And you are now...
I'm somewhere in Cheshire. I was going to say I'm orbiting on a space station, but no, I'm in Cheshire. But I moved here about a week before coronavirus kicked in, so I may as well be orbiting because I don't know what's going on at all. But I'm glad to be here.
It's good to have you here. And we've got speakers from all over the UK and Germany as well. So there is Dennis there, who is coming from Germany. So they've traveled far for you today, as I think you have as well. It would be fantastic, as Jamie said, if you could say a little hello on the YouTube live chat. It'd be nice to know where you are. Maybe just say which city or which country you're in. It'd be lovely for us to see. We will just talk for a little bit, just to let people find their way onto the channel, because they were expecting, well, you were expecting us to be available at 7:15. So I'm just going to say a couple of things, which some people will have heard a few times before. But I started organising Pecha Kucha Leamington in November 2018, and this is the 9th event. We were going to have a live event in April. I can see that Nick's waving at people there, which is rather lovely. But we had to postpone it, obviously, because of the current situation. So I wanted to do an online event just to bring people back together again. And it's really lovely to see how many people have showed an interest. And there's been some amazing conversations just in organising and pulling this event together. So thank you to everyone for your support. So we'll have a little bit of intro now, and then I'm going to introduce you to our very special guests, Adam and Mark, and then we will have 6 talks, and then there will be a break. You can top up your drinks, find more snacks, reclaim the best spot on the sofa, and then we will have 5 more talks. So I just want to mention that we're raising money for the Warwickshire Scrubbers, which most of you probably know by now, but it's just nice to give those guys a mention. So they are a team of volunteer sewers. There's now something like 1,200 of them, and that's just in Warwickshire, which is a county in England. I should say we're in the middle of England, for those of you who haven't been here before. The Warwickshire Scrubbers are all either hobby sewers or professional sewers. They've really come from all walks of life. Their youngest member at the moment is 10 years old. Their oldest member is 94 years old. And they're making scrubs for medical staff, be it medical staff in hospitals, care homes, GP surgeries, hospices. And the money that we're raising is for the fabric, for the materials. The sewing is all being done voluntarily. Now, one of our speakers, Charlie, who you will see with some text about cake in the background. His wife Jules has actually I'm going to say remodeled the, interrupt me if you wish, if I say the wrong thing. But she has designed a new scrubs pattern. So I'm just looking at my notes here. About 2 weeks ago, and it's just to make it easier to sew. If you're not a professional machinist, that pattern made it even better, or easier, simpler. And there have been, I think, 6,500 downloads of that pattern. And that's across the UK, and I think even in some other countries. There are scrubbers effectively all over the UK, and Warwickshire is just one section of it. And one of the scrubbers key organisers, Abigail, she's been helping me out getting information together. We put a video of her online, and she visited Aston Martin to advise on the pattern design and work with Jules as well. And so that pattern was adapted also for large scale production, and Aston Martin are now using staff and machines which are ordinarily used for cars to produce scrubs. So it's an amazing effort what these guys are doing. So then we just fast forward to last night. So every Thursday in the UK we're holding a clap outside our houses for NHS workers, for carers, for key workers. And this is when I met Adam. So Adam, if you'd like to unmute yourself. So basically, hi Adam, thank you for joining us. So we're there clapping for these wonderful people. It turns out Adam is one of them. And Adam, what was so interesting to me is when you were describing what you were wearing yesterday.
Yes. Sorry, I was receiving a call there. What bad timing. Yeah, so I was I bumped into Sarah in the street, and we were outside clapping. It's a pleasure to be here, by the way. Nice to join everybody. And we got talking about scrubs. And
I understand you might have been wearing some homemade scrubs.
I have indeed. They had been contributed to my hospital by a local scrubbers society. It's a great nickname, by the way. And they came in quite a vivid pattern. They were given to me by one of my consultant colleagues who said, "Do you think these might be a bit much for you?" And I said, "No, not at all. I'm not afraid." Don't know if that's making out very well on a small screen, but we've got a black top with a pink floral trouser.
Amazing.
And it's really, yeah, it's really a nice little touch, a nice little thing to be wearing.
And you were sort of talking about the difference that it's made as well, just to your day, wearing something slightly different to what you normally would in terms of colour.
Yeah, so to give a little background, I'm a A&E doctor working in the local area. We often wear, thank you, Andrew. We often wear scrubs as a part of our uniform to protect ourselves, to reduce the risk of us taking things home. They're easy to clean, they're easy to launder, they go in and out of the washing machine nice and quickly. And they're widely used in certain areas. At the moment, with what's going on, and without talking about it too much, people are wearing them more, and people are being more aware of how they can be taking infection from place to place. So there's certainly a need for them, there's certainly a desire for them. And many people who work in hospitals that wouldn't ordinarily wear scrubs are now turning to them as a convenient way to maintain a kind of professional outfit, but also to, as I say, reduce that risk of taking nasty stuff home. And if they can be light, if they can be airy, if they can have a bit of fun attached to them, then that's all the better. And it's certainly a bit of a morale booster. It's something that my colleagues and I have had a bit of fun talking about and wearing. And my partner, who's also a doctor, wore a pair today, which were pink and red floral pattern, and they went down really well. It's a bit of kind of fun in otherwise fairly challenging times.
It's amazing. So it's just been really nice to meet someone who's actually benefited from what you guys are raising money for. So it's really good to hear, Adam. Thank you. And lovely to meet you yesterday.
Yeah, likewise.
And
well, lovely to meet everyone, and thank you very much for this fundraising. Like it's a really worthwhile cause. It's very much appreciated. there is a demand there, and I think communities and groups of people like this coming together to find novel ways to help get involved is such a laudable thing, and it's really, really appreciated from the bottom of all our hearts.
Thank you. Great. Well, now we can talk about Pecha Kucha. I'm pronouncing it wrong.
There is a drinking game. Every time somebody pronounces Pecha Kucha wrong, you have to take a shot of whatever you're drinking. I'm on squash, so this is going to get messy.
I am also, it's not a bottle of gin.
It is a bottle of gin.
Yes, so normally I would introduce what PK is.
PK.
I would normally introduce what PK is, but yesterday I had a wonderful email from Mark Dytham. Some of you might recognize his name because Klein Dytham Architects are the original creators of PK. So he offered to join the event today, and he's going to start off the event by explaining it all to you in the form of a Pecha Kucha talk. Is that even close, Mark?
It's almost there. We can all learn a little bit later.
Okay. So, without any more talking from me, we will start your talk. So this is where I have to get to grips with the technology and share my screen. So now you're going to watch me do that, hopefully really smoothly.
We've got you covered, don't worry.
Watching this, and we've just gone through this 9 hours ago, and it's very nerve-wracking, so good luck.
Thank you very much.
If anybody has got any comments about the snacks and or beverages they're consuming this evening as well, because as we've learned, it only seeks to make the rest of us jealous with that kind of envy. So.
Okay, so I am now sharing my screen. Nick, can I just say I'm sharing screen too, aren't I? Can you give me a thumbs up?
Here we go.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll see which screen you guys are going to get. We'll see if it's the right screen. That's always the fun part.
I'll tell you whether that's correct.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, it's a good screen.
Okay.
Oh, it's disappeared though from me.
I know. I realised. 1 second.
I'm very pleased to say that we've got 121 people watching live now.
Wow.
And we've had people coming from Colorado, Edinburgh, Bangalore, Mid Wales. They're the four corners of the globe, I've been told. I was never good at geography, but that's pretty impressive. So welcome, everybody. Keep them coming.
Okay, go full screen. That's what we need to do now.
Right. So our first speaker is Mark Dytham. When you're ready, Mark, I will start the slideshow.
Yeah, I'm good to go. Let's do it. It's my fault you're all having to go through this format. So,
okay.
Good to go. So,
just a reminder to everyone else. Just a reminder to everyone else. Mute yourselves. Sorry, Mark.
Okay. Yeah, just fire away, and we'll have a go. These things should be relaxed. So. Hi, I'm Mark Dytham. I'm here based in Tokyo, and I set up a architectural practice here with Astrid Klein over 30 years ago. And just showing a couple of projects. This is Ginza Place on the main crossroads in Tokyo on Chiodori, and yeah, it's an 11-story mixed-use building, and Nissan use it for their headquarters. And as I say, we designed that project, so it's really one of our favorite projects in Tokyo. 20 seconds is quite long, yeah. So if you've got the timing on them, I don't know. It seems very long, this one. We're there. They normally move quicker than this, but anyway, my next project will be. Is it moving? Am I seeing anything on your side? Here we go. Very good. So yeah, as I say, architect. This is a wedding chapel in Japan, and yeah, it's not really a church. It's a wedding chapel. People just get married here. And when the groom kisses the bride, the wedding veil swings up, this veil, and it's perforated with 4,700 acrylic lenses. It's really amazing. So we own this, we ran this art space in Tokyo called Super Deluxe for many years. And when it started, we didn't have enough events to fill the space. So in our office, we at the dawn of digital photography and PowerPoint and Keynote, we started to run these sessions in every Monday morning. And we thought, why don't we open this up to other people and run an event, a show and tell event in our art space? And that's where Pecha was born. And this is typical of our event. We have about 150, 300 people joining the event. So Pecha Kucha, as it's called, is an onomatopoeia. It's a sound of chit chat in Japanese. And Hisayama, a guy in our office, came up with a name for the one-off event, and now it's become a global phenomenon. 20 slides, 20 seconds, no forward, no back. That stops architects talking too much, which they're generally known to do. And from a one-off event in Tokyo, we've now spread to 1,227 cities today. And before this troubling moment around the world, we're having over 100 events a month. We don't charge for the format, it's free, and that's why I think it's spread so virally. When we were about 600 cities, there was a big earthquake in Haiti, and we were trying to think what we could do. We held a global online event, 24 hours nonstop, with these events running like a presentation wave around the world. We raised $150,000 and helped build a school in Haiti. A year later, the shoe was on the other foot. And as you can see here, 130,000 buildings were destroyed by the earthquake and tsunami in like 20 minutes. And this is the area that we've been working in. Nobody really, I don't think, understands the scale of the disaster. 200 kilometers of coast completely wiped out. And Japan's really inspired the world with its design and creativity. And our 600 cities got together and decided to inspire Japan back. And we held this event in Tokyo a few weeks after the earthquake. And we just put a simple logo out, and there was this amazing creativity appeared where people just designed these incredible posters. And this was the start of the Inspire project, Inspire Japan back. And it was just remarkable. And we're really, these are not forwarding properly, but just press that forward button, Sarah. And it's practice if it's not going. It's all right. We've been here exactly like this 9 hours ago, so don't worry. Hi, Sarah. Whoa, hey, I just want to say, I know Brian's watching this at the moment. Hi.
Sorry.
The same issue, but this is all teething problems from going live. And as I say, 3 weeks ago, we'd never done one of these. And we've had 3 attempts, we've had 3 events. It's all been good. Yeah, just go from that middle one there. That's good. I can do it from there. So 4 weeks after the earthquake, we held this event as 105 cities got together on the same day. Again, we raised about 100 grand for Architecture for Humanity. And we started building, we started building projects in Tokyo under this the name Home for All. And this is the project we built along with Nike. And it's a sports center. And it was kind of interesting. In Japan, many of the sports fields were commandeered to put the temporary housing on. There were 25,000 temporary homes built instantly. And so that was the money we raised during the event went for that. What's happened is that we've been recording for the last 9 years what's been going on in the Tohoku area. And this archive we've built is absolutely phenomenal. So we're kind of the last responders, not the first responders. When CNN and BBC have moved on, we're there still making or getting people to make presentations. So on the left, this is a lovely presentation by somebody who lives in a temporary home, and on the right, it's the project by Safecast. and they're a crowdsourced radiation detection. They've made a handheld radiation detection machine, and that feeds into a crowdsourced map to show where the radiation is in Japan. Only a month after the earthquake in Japan, there was a huge earthquake in Christchurch, and Christchurch is one of our most active cities, projector cities, and we set up an Inspire Japan event for them, an Inspire Christchurch event for them. And this is built around the world, and we've held events for Nepal with a massive earthquake they had there, and we've got a very strong event in Kathmandu there, and then in Kumamoto as well, where this amazing castle has been destroyed by an earthquake in Kumamoto. And so we've been capturing all these different events. That's a little bit large, that image, but anyway. So Inspire the World is the platform that we've set up in the last few weeks. And we're trying to capture really interesting and positive stories that come out of this very difficult situation, or highlighting difficulties that need to be resolved. And these are all being recorded. They'll all be up on the website, and it'll become an incredible archive in the future. So yeah, I want to say thank you for everybody for joining tonight, especially the doctor that's on the call. And yeah, so I'm waiting for the next slide. There we go. So thank you very much, everybody. It's been really amazing. I'm very pleased that you all can make it tonight. I'm really pleased that I can join from Tokyo. And yeah, have a great night tonight. I'm going to try and stay on the call. If I fall asleep, as I say, it's 10 to 4 in the morning here. So have a great night tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark.
It's absolutely marvellous, Mark. You're perfectly entitled to fall asleep on us. I don't think any of us would take that as being a sign that we're boring.
Oh,
so
brilliant.
Just say, Sarah, there are a few slides dropping out there. I don't know.
Yeah, so what I'm going to need to do is it's sticking. It's sticking sometimes. So I'm now sat here with the timer for all of the for the speakers. I will time each slide, so if it sticks, I will press the right button.
Thank God you've got gin in that bottle.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. So it's been wonderful to have you introduce the event. Thank you, Mark. So you will see me now minimize the screen because our next speaker is Charlie Buds. So Charlie is based in Stratford-upon-Avon, and he's a video producer, a photographer. He's the writer of 5 Good Things, and he's the founder of the Creative Cake Storm networking events, which are held locally. In his own words, these aren't my words, he has a ridiculously long chin badger, and he also likes cake, trees, connection, and more cake. Now, Charlie has asked to record the presentation in advance, which was absolutely fine. So this is where you're going to see me minimizing the screen, and we'll start Charlie's. So Charlie, what I'm going to do, just so you know, I'm going to mute, if every single person needs to be on mute for this, and I will also stop my video.
What can we learn about connection from a stammering, beardy, nature-loving, cake-obsessed, wildlife-conserving, social media-addicted photographer, videographer, and ambivert? Well, not long ago, I realised that everything I do, and have done for nearly all my life, is about connection. We understand, perhaps more clearly than ever right now, that connection in the physical world can enable something bad, like a highly contagious virus, to travel incredibly fast and do people enormous harm. But we should not forget that connection can also allow us to spread positivity and kindness throughout the world faster than ever. What's being called social distancing is maybe nothing of the sort. We certainly are physically distancing, but perhaps we are socially converging, because the more we connect with an ethos of giving and positivity, the more the ripples of kindness can spread. We now have a fantastic opportunity to bring our hearts and minds together when our bodies must stay far apart. So let me tell you a story about how nearly everything I've ever done has been about connection. You might find some of it applies to you as well. I'll take you from molecular science to a zebra on a mountaintop, and from the UK to Nepal and South Africa. I've always struggled with connecting to other people, having had a stammer ever since I could talk. Maybe that's why, at school in the soft Dorset countryside, I found solace and connection with the natural world. Spending hours walking through the woods, I felt both a sense of deep calm and fizzing energy. It's my natural habitat. Maybe I'm one of J.R.R. Tolkien's Ents. Some people do call me Treebeard. I was given a camera at the age of 8, and the pictures from my first roll of film were pretty good. I definitely had an eye. From that moment, I was addicted to photography. It was a way that I could communicate and connect with other people. At the same time, I fell in love with science. From the fact the oxygen you just breathed in could have been a dinosaur's left eyeball, to how bees communicate with each other by dancing in the hive. I didn't know it then, but science allowed me to see how connected we all are as species on this amazing planet. I'd always been a bit of a book nerd, from David Attenborough to Agatha Christie, Charles Darwin to Leonard Dayton. As a boy, I read nearly every book in our house. Books gave me a love of storytelling and a voracious passion for words that allows me to spread positivity and connection many decades later with 5 good things. My love of nature, science and books culminated with doing environmental science at university, a way to understand how we are all connected with the planet, how we are harming it and harming ourselves. But I did feel by the end that academia was disconnected with the real world, and I wanted to do something more practical. I ended up working in local government, trying to get community groups, charities, businesses and public organisations to connect, to make the environment and society a better and more equitable place. But again, I felt I was getting nowhere. So I headed for the mountains. Working for 18 months doing humanitarian and education work in Nepal gave me a deeper understanding of how people in absolute poverty struggle to survive. I learned the value of gratitude and simplicity, a plate of rice or a battery for a radio to connect with the BBC World Service. Then, over 3 years, I helped to set up a 50 square mile nature reserve in South Africa. I was often alone in nature at its most elemental. Once in a blizzard, reaching the top of a mountain plateau, I found a single zebra staring at me. I stared back. It ran off, but that raw connection with nature can be exhilarating. Once back in the UK, having moved to a new town, I struggled to connect with people, as my stammer made me afraid in new social situations. And I'm not an introvert either, I'm an ambivert, gaining energy from groups of people and from being on my own. But it was a tough time. Then I bought my first computer and Twitter came to my rescue. I could chat with people all over the world. I loved it, especially because I can type quicker than I can talk. Social media became a great connector. Facebook for friends and family, Instagram for fellow creatives, and LinkedIn for local business contacts. Moving way out of my comfort zone, I persevered with face-to-face networking for business and to connect with other creatives. I founded the Stratford Clicks photography group with Sally Crane and the Creative Cake Storm events with the support of business coach Linda Holt. And however hard I find it speaking, I do miss that face-to-face connection right now. And it was Linda who helped me to figure out that the reason I do everything I do is about connection. Whether it's the commercial photography and video work to help organisations to connect with the people who they can serve, or the art photography I do, helping to connect people with the natural world, and my weekly 5 good things to help people to connect to positivity. On a personal level, growing vegetables and fruit and having chickens for eggs at home helps to connect me with food we all need to survive and thrive. And I find meditating helps me to connect with the reality of the moment. Does any of that make any sense to you? How much of what you do is all about connecting with other people, other forms of life and the planet, or with your deeper self? To me, the more you connect with all your senses, with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your body, with all your experiences, with all your wisdom, with all of your failings, is the essence of love. As a group of four-tousled Liverpudlians once warbled, all we need is love, and love is all we need. And love is connection. So with love, thank you for listening. I don't know about you, but I could use a cuppa and a piece of cake. But before you go, just one more thing. We connect with one person at a time, even broadcasting like at this Pecha Kucha event. I'm speaking directly into your brain. Yes, you with the headphones on. Yes, you with a cheeky second glass of wine. Yes, you sitting there in your pants. So write down this heading. How can I connect today? And put your trousers on and get connected.
Thank you, Charlie. That was amazing. I've got a few comments. One, how did you know I was wearing pants? That troubles me greatly. If you want to find out more about Charlie, he's at thetallphotographer.co.uk. I also thought that was fascinating, and we were very much in tune where he started. Everything I've ever done has been about, and then he said connection, and I swear he was going to say cake, at which point I was like, we're in completely. But that was fantastic. And the only other thought is, the water that we've got in our seas now is exactly the same water that the dinosaurs had. That pretty much, you know, that's what I have to say, really. Sarah, back to you.
Thank you. All right, that was wonderful, Charlie. Thank you. So, our next speaker is Garima Darwin. Now, Garima is a licensing artist, a printmaker, and she loves to work with colour and nature. After a car accident in New York in 2006, she developed a keen interest in healing and wellness and working with nature. Her work keeps going back to the theme of a garden and growing things. She currently lives in Leamington with her husband and her daughter, and she's going to be speaking about her experiments with growing fruits, vegetables, and herbs. And that's with what she can find in her kitchen during this current lockdown. So Garima, welcome. When you're ready, I can start.
Sure. So, hi. So before we start, we can all take a deep breath and imagine ourselves in our gardens. And I'm Garima. I'm an artist, and I just always had this dream of having like a forest in my backyard and chickens running in my kitchen. So I've never had a garden, but last summer, my genius husband figured out how we can grow a vertical garden in this little sliver of a space in our house. And that's my daughter eating strawberries from our vertical garden. So everything I cook, I have this little pot in my kitchen and a big container where I just put it in the garden, add some soil, and that's my composting magical soil solution. So pretty simple. I used to hate plastic bottles. Now I love plastic bottles because you just take the top off, you can start sprouting things and growing things, make watering containers. And I just made an upside down tomato planter. So I used to go to Marks and Spencer to get the extra spoons and forks to label my things, but now yogurt pots. It's amazing what solutions you can find when you have nowhere to go and lots of things lying around. So just cut them up and plug away. So being inherently quite lazy, I'm always looking for two pots that fit into each other, and one has holes. So I water it and they become self-watering pots. So for a week, I don't need to water them. I put holes in bottles and put them in my garden. Since I couldn't get seeds, I decided to raid my pantry, and these are spices which actually have edible leaves. And I thought, wow, there's like fennel and coriander, fenugreek, mustard, and in 2 weeks they're already growing, and we're harvesting them in salads. And um, sprouts is the easiest thing you can grow. Just take a bottle, soak the seeds, next day just wash it out. In a couple of days, you'll have fresh sprouts at home. I thought everybody knew that, but Sarah said, wow, I didn't know you could do that. So I thought, okay, that's, something I could talk about. Chickpeas, peas, everything that's in your pantry, just soak it. It's already growing. In India, we eat the green peas. It's called cholia, and you can eat the leaves, and it's really, really delicious. So my daughter walks around eating all these things in the garden. Spring onions, you just cut the top off and put the bottoms in a jar, and they grow and grow, and you never need to buy them again. So just simple things. Whenever you're cooking, everything you have, really, you can just plant in your garden. And I just planted a bunch of garlic. Just the pointy bits have to be on the top. You put it in the ground. You can eat the leaves, or you can put it on a glass of water and let the roots grow, and then you can just take it apart and put in the garden. And same with ginger. Just there are these little knobs all over the ginger. You just plant it. You can put the leaves in stews, soups. I mean, it's amazing that, I didn't even think of these things last year because I could go to a nursery and buy seeds and pluck plants. But now I just look around my garden, my kitchen. So here's potato. This was a fun experiment. You can just put the potatoes to chit, and then, which means they start growing these eyes. And then you can grow them in a pot and keep layering soil on them as the plant grows, and then it's ready to harvest once it flowers. I couldn't find any tomato plants or seeds, so I just cut up some tomatoes and put them in the pot, and I already have seedlings. So I'm looking forward to a ton of tomatoes that my daughter can just walk around and eat in the garden. And same for peppers. You'll never look at a pepper the same way again, because the minute you cut it, that's a treasure trove of seeds waiting to be planted, and you can have all kind of like peppers in your garden to eat. So just a matter of a different perspective on what you think is ordinary. And carrots, the tops are fantastic. Just cut the tops, put them in a little bit of water, and then you can put them in the soil, and they're delicious. And I just lost the presentation, sorry. Sarah, I think I lost it.
You want me to pause it?
Yeah, I don't know. It's disappeared, the presentation. So I don't know what happened.
Okay. Can other presenters see my screen? Yeah. Okay. Okay.
You're on avocado.
Oh, so I can't. Oh, I can see it now.
Yeah.
Wait,
okay.
Sorry.
So don't worry at all. It's okay.
All right.
It's all right. So what we can do, we can restart from. Do you want to restart from avocado?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure. Avocado's good. Yeah.
Okay. So when I press full screen, it'll start with the 20 seconds again. So I'm just going to mute myself.
Okay. Great. Thank you. So avocado, we eat a ton of avocados, and although it's tropical, I just started, taking the peels off. It just dries up in a day or two, and putting it in water, and in a few weeks, it splits, and the root and the shoot come out. It's a beautiful plant. And mango, my daughter loves mangoes, and we just split the hard shell and we plant the inside, and we grew a ton of mangoes. We planted a lot, and they have to grow inside unless it's really warm outside. But it's just fun to see things grow from the things we eat every day. And herbs, so I always have these fantastic plastic bottles again with herbs. You just take the bottom leaves off and put them in water, and very soon they'll start growing roots, and then you can just replant them. So you don't need to you'll always have herbs in your garden. And but I think the big question was why. And I really wanted my daughter to be able to grow things, to go out, to play, to eat things, and grow up with this whole sensory experience of being in nature. And it's a fun thing we do together. And also, I think for me, it's the potential of a seed, just becoming these beautiful, beautiful plants. And I mean, that's something which is sort of what life is about, especially in these times. So just the outcome is just go for it. Just whatever you say, grow it. So thank you.
Thank you.
That's amazing. What's quite fun about doing it, the version we're doing, is that we can see the other speakers, and I'm pretty sure I saw about 4 jaws hit the floor at various points there. I know that, like peppers, I've just gone, what? Wait a minute, of course, because you throw them all away. Who would have thought you could reuse them? Spring onions, spice leaves. I don't need to go to the shops anymore. I'm going to be grinding my own flour next weekend. That's fantastic. You can find Garima at Garima Dalwan Studio on Facebook and Instagram, I believe.
Yes.
Thanks, everybody.
I don't think I'm on. Can you hear me? I was just going to say that
Yes.
we've done this 3 or 4 times now, or 3 times. And last week we had some really big name speakers from the US. Yves Beho is one of the biggest product designers in the world. He was speaking, and he was saying how, when you go to a design conference, I speak at several around the world, you're pushed on, you're pushed off, you don't get to meet the other speakers, you're taken for dinner, and it's a bit of a hollow experience. But he said online like this, it's amazing. You actually, you can actually listen to everybody else, you can see them, and at the beer break and afterwards there'll be really nice conversations. So yeah, it's really amazing. And here I am in Tokyo watching something happening in Leamington Spa. Awesome. And that was a great presentation too. Perfect.
Thank you.
Brilliant. So our next speaker is Lola. I'm just checking that, yep, Lola has unmuted herself. You will see yourself. Don't worry. When you speak, you will see yourself. No,
Okay.
It's all good. We're all learning, Lola. We're all learning, as you saw with me. And we're really lucky to have Lola speaking. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about her. Obviously, she is going to present herself. I'm going to just tell you a few little clues about her. She's 10. She lives in Leamington, and she's the eldest of 3 sisters. She's an aspiring actress, singer, author, and adventurer. And she's going to be telling us about life as a 10-year-old in 2020. So Lola, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mute myself, and then just tell me when you're ready, and I'll press the button to start. Just 1 second.
Okay, yeah, I'm ready. I'm Lola Fullerton, and I'm 10 years old, 11 on the 27th of July. My mum and dad say they're too busy to do a talk. I think they're scared. So I said I would do one instead. It's longer. I live with my mum, dad, 2 little sisters, and my dog, Patch. My parents say that I'm really lucky to have 2 sisters, but I disagree. They always get me into trouble and annoy me when I'm trying to concentrate on something. I guess I am lucky when it comes to my wider family, as my mum's side of the family lives in Devon and my dad's side lives in the Lake District. It is also quite special to have 2 great grannies still alive. They are 92 and 96 and still going strong. I have even been getting Granny Jean doing a weekly exercise class during lockdown via FaceTime. I love doing lots of different things, but my favourite thing is performing. Singing, dancing, acting, all of it. I have performed for people quite a lot. For example, I've sang at my auntie's wedding in a pantomime by myself, and I sometimes sing with my dad's band, as well as playing the flute with them. I love climbing and hiking too, and have climbed Mount Snowdon and Ingleborough. So that's what I like, lots of things. When I grow up, I really want to be a film actress who stars in musicals. But the future is a long way away, so we'll see what happens. I go to Milverton Primary School and I'm in Year 6. We have mixed year classes and no uniform. I'm glad there hasn't been a uniform. It's more interesting and more comfortable wearing your own clothes. One thing I have found in primary school, though, is that the people who are considered sporty are the ones who can run the fastest. They get put into all the sports tournaments, like table tennis and swimming, which seems a shame, as it means no one else gets a chance. I love getting involved in things and wish I could have done more sport in primary school. People often say that they don't like school, but I think that's not completely true. Not going to school because of coronavirus has made me realise how much I enjoy learning with other people. If we don't go back to school this year, I might not see some of my friends again for a long time, not to mention all the year 6 leavers things we were meant to be doing. Discos, exams, assemblies, all of it. I'm sad to be leaving primary school, but also excited about starting North Leamington Secondary School. I hear that adults say it is a big step up, and I suppose it will be, going from being the oldest in primary school to the youngest in another. Because of lockdown, we might not get to go into our new schools until September, which means our first day could be even more terrifying than normal. I am nervous about making new friends, carrying loads of books, and finding my way to all my classes. But I am excited about learning new subjects, being more independent, and wearing a uniform, as we haven't had one in primary school, but friends in year 7 say the novelty soon wears off. There are quite a few things I find unfair at home. If I did something, like breaking a glass by accident, I get pretty told off. But if one of my parents did that, they don't get told off. And if we tried to tell the grown-ups off, they would just say that we were being rude. There are also things I find unfair at school. Once, I had told a couple of teachers that I felt unwell, but they told me I was fine and I had to stay at school. It turned out that I actually had tonsillitis and had to go to hospital the same evening. And whenever you tell the teachers you feel unwell, they just say you're fine, which I find is a bit unfair. For Easter, I got a phone with a SIM card, but since I got it, I've barely been allowed on it much. It's really disappointing to get a phone, but then all the adults make up all these rules about not going on it. What was the point of having a phone in the first place? I feel like Mum and Dad have been on it more than me to check my messages every day. When I go on my phone to read my messages, my parents always tell me to come off it, but they're on theirs all the time. Having a phone is really important for children to feel grown up and the same as their friends. I sometimes find the news really sad. One thing I hear a lot about and feel strongly about is climate change. I went to all the local school strikes to try and make the government realise that if we don't do anything about this big problem, our Earth and everything on it will die, including us at some point, which is pretty scary. Children in my generation and generations to come do not want to grow up into a world they know is dying and that is full of pollution that we created and poisoned our Earth with. This is still a huge problem we need to fix before it is too late. Something else that worried me was Brexit. It might sound strange that I'm calling this a problem, but when I heard Mum and Dad saying we couldn't travel so easily now and how there might be a shortage of simple things, I was nervous about what was going to happen and whether it would be okay in the end. I suppose we don't really know what happened, as there's now a much bigger problem to deal with anyway. As it will affect mine and future generations much more than the adults who can actually vote, we don't get to say. Our decisions are in the hands of the adults, and we want them to make the right choices for our future lives. Thank you very much for listening to my talk about being a 10-year-old in 2020. I hope you learned at least a little bit about children's life during these times. Perhaps you are now more understanding and can talk to children you think might be feeling worried or scared. Hopefully my experiences can help you understand what might be going through children's minds at different times in their lives. Please try to understand their feelings and reassure them that things will be okay in the end, or that you will try and fix any worries or even complaints if they ask nicely. Thank you.
Well done there, Lola. That was epic. I feel like as someone whose age is yet
Excellent.
to be officially announced, I feel that being a 10-year-old is a lot more stressful, quite frankly. That's amazing.
Incredible. Thank you so much. That was you know, really moving for me. I love the way you say you live with your parents, you know, or they live with you at the beginning. So I'm sure my children think the same. What a fantastic presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lola. So speaker number 4 is Andrew Bracey.
Hello.
Hello. Andrew is an artist based in Wellington, rural Lincolnshire. He runs the MA in Fine Art at the University of Lincoln. But he's also currently a PhD student studying his idea of, how do I say that, Bracey?
Parasitical painting.
Parasitical painting, which is what he's studying. So generally, he's a little bit obsessed about art. He's making art, he's showing it, teaching it. He curates exhibitions, writes and talks about art, and he sees an awful lot of art. Last year, he went to 491 exhibitions. So do feel sorry for his family. So Bracey, I should say, Bracey and I have known each other for a while, so I cannot get used to calling him Andrew. Andrew, the stage is now yours, so I will mute myself, and when you say you're happy to go, I will press the right button.
Great. I just wanted to say that was amazing, Lola, and I feel like I got the short straw going right after you. So yeah, I'm ready to go, Sarah. Okay, so this is the greatest painting ever made. When coronavirus and our new world of social distancing and not being able to make the journey to the next house or a gallery, let alone another country, I would urge you all sometime in your life to go to Madrid and stand in front of Las Meninas and look really, really hard at it. The longer one looks, the more the painting gives back and the more the questions arise from it. Las Meninas has been studied and analysed for centuries, and yet there's no settled meaning on what it's truly about or who the true subject of the painting is. For some, the painting is about the princess, Margarita Teresa. After all, she's at the centre of the composition. But for others, it's the lady in waiting, or the meninas in Spanish, along with the chaperones and dwarfs that is the actual subject. Velázquez was fond of painting servants, highly unusual for a court painter at the time. It's plausible he'd found a way to feature daily life in the palace instead of another royal portrait. For others, the mirror at the back of the room is key. Logically, the mirror is reflecting the king and queen, Marina of Spain, in front of the crowd of people, and Velázquez is painting a large canvas in the painting. So is Las Meninas an experiment with composition, popular in Spain at the time in literature such as Don Quixote by Cervantes? Or is it about the increasing power and influence of the artist himself? The art historian Svetlana Alpers, for example, has spoken of how by prominently showing himself within the higher company of the Spanish royal court, Velázquez was claiming high status for both himself and his art. Or is it about the viewer? Is Velázquez theoretically painting us? The French philosopher Michel Foucault writes, "We are looking at a picture in which the painter is in turn looking out at us." When I stood in front of the painting in the Prado Museum in Madrid, I powerfully felt Velázquez's black eyes on me. Stomach's Truth captures the aura of the painting in this photograph. It's rarely on its own. Over 3 days of studying it, I had it for myself for 1 minute only. But unlike seeing the Mona Lisa in the Louvre, standing in front of Las Meninas manages to be an intimate experience. It feels like you're able to converse with the painting somehow. So Las Meninas continues to provoke possibilities. A conundrum for artists is whether the art that they make is about their own intentions or whether it is for others to interpret. We cannot know what Velázquez's intentions for Las Meninas were, but it offers so many possibilities. And Las Meninas is a painting that many artists have used for the base for inspiration for their own creations. Perhaps most notably, Pablo Picasso made 58 variations of Las Meninas, which are all on show together in the Picasso Museum in Barcelona. This one is the one arguably closer to Velázquez's original, despite its landscape format. But he also did several paintings that focused on individual figures in the original painting, such as the Infanta Princess. It could be argued that Picasso was taking on the painting as a form of competition as to who was the greatest Spanish or even just the greatest ever living painter, an honor he felt it was his. Or is Picasso having a dialogue with art of the past? He said, "To me, there is no past or future in art. If a work of art cannot live always in the present, it must not be considered art at all." An art historian, Elizabeth Carley, says that the fact that he found the 300-year painting so stimulating and provocative was proof of its timelessness. The relationship and dialogue between Picasso and Velázquez is something that the British artist Richard Hamilton used as subject. Here, Picasso replaces Velázquez. Paintings by Picasso are seen in the background, and the figures in the crowd take on Picasso's innovations in style from different periods of his career. Anthony Whitshaw has produced multiple versions, including this radical reimagining. Here we see as if from Velázquez's eyes, with his arm reaching out to the canvas and the middle of his hand with the brush, and then the canvas itself, the Infanta, possibly the first real subject that we looked at. Meanwhile, Philippe Comar was intrigued by Foucault's notion of the subject being the viewer, us. He constructed a model of Velázquez's studio space in the palace in Madrid where the painting is set. The work is viewed through two peepholes, one to see the king and queen, and one to see the viewer reflecting back on themselves. Yves Sussman has freed the painting from the frozen moment of the canvas, creating a videoed reenactment with costumed actors in the space, and the camera moves 360 degrees around the room, doing what the artist has called a fly on the wall of royal Spanish life. Art historian Daniel Arras reflected that many people's view is that enough has already been said about Las Meninas. Enough is definitely enough became the title of an exhibition that I curated of over 50 artists responding to Las Meninas. My belief is that artists have plenty more to say about the painting still. For example, Lucy Renton created this Baroque diorama where she transplanted the Spanish palace to an English country home, creating collage from the World of Interiors magazines, and she shifted the perspective right down to be that of the Infanta Princess. Or Sarah Bennett wanted to draw attention to one particular maid of honor in the painting, Donna Isabella de la Vesco. So she used two magnifying glasses, a camera, and a magnification of a viewer finder for the viewer to look through, making the work of the painting and her own work all about looking. Whereas Daley Manley said he chewed over Las Meninas, metaphorically and then actually. For David, the center of his work was that curious mirror, and he covered it over with the chewed up postcard of Las Meninas, which he stuck to the front of the painting as if a mist. For Sahelia Sokinvani, Las Meninas is all about Velázquez towering over everyone, even the king and queen. In her work, Velázquez projects out from her sculpture. And for me too, this is the most powerful presence of the painting, the artist Velázquez himself. And maybe this is why I'm so much drawn to it. Thank you.
Good job. I think that's, it's rare to spend so long looking at one piece of work in such depth. And then it's fascinating to see how many different people have interpreted it. I would argue that the fact that you've now done a Pecha about it validates the piece even further. And I am in the process of preparing my own Pecha, exploring your Pecha about the work itself. So that'll be happening at some point.
Very, very meta.
Good work. Thanks very much.
Brilliant. Thank you, Andrew. So speaker number 5 is Melissa Abder. Melissa is an assistant professor in media and communications at Coventry University. She's teaching and researching about popular culture and digital technologies. And in her spare time, she can be found exploring summits and forests, which give you a little bit of a clue of what she might be talking about next. Melissa, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, so let me know when you're ready.
Yeah, ready to go now. Okay, so hello, and yeah, thanks for the introduction. I'm happy to meet you all here today in this format, and I'm going to kind of continue on with some of this theme that we've got going about nature and connection, and yeah, just championing the environment around us. So I want to start by asking you a question, which I know that you can't really respond to easily in this format, but maybe you can make use of the chat function in YouTube, so at least I can check out the responses later and see what you've come up with. So the first thing is, do you have a favorite plant? And the second is, if you do, what is your favorite plant? So yeah, feel free to take a second now to just lay it all out there in the comments. So yeah, thanks for doing that. So yeah, you might be thinking that's a bit of an odd question, but why is that? We're so used to growing up identifying our relationships to colors, food, sports, music, but what about trees or fungus or flowers? Where are those BuzzFeed quizzes that tell us what tree we are in relation to different aspects of our personality? So as an experiment, I posed this question to my social media accounts, Instagram and Twitter. And yeah, there's some interesting results, including one friend who immediately messaged me to say, girl, no one has a favorite plant. But anyways, you can see here, it's an almost 50-50 split, whether people did consider themselves to have a favorite plant or not on both the platforms. And here you can see some of the great choices for those that do. Some of the examples here, a lot of flowers, which I expected, and also some more pragmatic choices like parsley, which is of course, both beautiful and delicious, and some nice trees as well. So you're probably wondering what my favorite plant is, which is, as you see here, moss, which also gets some interesting reactions when I tell people I'm a moss aficionado. But truly, bear with me, mosses are incredible plants. It's not just that stuff that grows all over your roofs and sidewalks that needs to be removed at some point. And even though we do encounter it all the time, you may not know that there is as many as 22,000 different species. And even so, there's basically no common names to identify the differences. They all get wrapped up in this homogeneous moss identity. But next time, I encourage you to get down low and take a closer look to kind of get up close and personal with the different touches and textures and looks, because they are basically tiny trees, lacking the support system to hold them up any higher than you see. They stay small to keep easily hydrated and function as almost like a network or infrastructure between the earth and the air above it. And they provide this gentle spot to rest, not only for us, but for, as you see here, the tardigrades. Also going by the names water bear or moss piglet. They're micro animals who live on the mosses, sucking water out of them. And like the plants they live on, can survive almost indefinite periods of drought and stress. They are potentially immortal. They can survive space and radiation. And as someone like myself who grew up in the Pacific Northwest in Canada, the prevalence of moss here in the Shire continues to connect me to my roots, to my own relationship to the natural world, this interconnectivity between plants and people and each other. It's that constant in my life across continents. And I've even been known to steal moss on occasion, even though I do feel bad for taking them out of their homes. There was this one time that coming back from a trip in Iceland when I had a large bag of moss in my luggage and almost had a panic attack as I watched them put it into the scanner right in front of me. But these tiny trees can remind us that we could be small and mighty, that we can coexist with the minuscule water bears, making our human lives seem almost insignificant in the face of their own immortality and resilience. But to go back to my first question, why should we have a favorite plant? For one, it's to make us more familiar with the natural world. We often experience nature through Instagram, documentaries, and other mediated ways, with a filter, sometimes quite literally, between us and that physical experience of being with nature. And to become familiar with something is ultimately feel responsible to it. We see this with animals. We have our favorites. We pledge money to support the great mammals of the world, to protect their dwindling numbers. We buy stuffed animals to show our connection. We visit them in zoos. But to truly protect them and ourselves, we also need to feel responsible to their own environment. So to have a favorite plant, it makes us more aware of those connections, to ensure that it can grow strong and tall or small or mighty, to host bees, animals, humans, to provide fresh air and forageable goods, is to recognize that to protect all animals, including us, is to protect those wider ecosystems. And there's a term for this, biophilia, by Erich Fromm, that translates to the love of life. So for him, it's, quote, the passionate love of life and all that is alive, the wish to further growth, whether in a person, a plant, an idea, or a social group. And he wrote a lot about humans' relationship to the natural world, and that he argued that there is an innate desire to do good to others. He also wrote about hope as a major driver in our lives, active wishing, the excitement of ideas, hoping for a particular encounter. And it's this hope that we see when we care for other people, other living organisms, whatever they might be. It provides meaning and purpose. And also, as Robin Wall Kimmerer has said, fellow lover of moss, in indigenous ways of knowing, a thing cannot be understood until it is known by all aspects of our being, mind, body, emotion, and spirit. We can also call this embodied knowledge in a more academic term, the understanding we have of something when we are connected to it with our own senses. So by fostering this embodied or physical knowledge of the world, I hope that it also nurtures an increased sense of an environmental connection, especially in an era where we are faced with such great challenges in regards to climate change and environmental crisis, when it feels overwhelming to even know where to start in the face of such a massive issue. So one way you can start, I can challenge you to seek out your favorite plant, start local, explore your local green areas and see what stands out, find out how to identify it, how it supports the local ecosystem, and what you might be able to do to protect it in that wider sense. So embrace hope by embracing that everyday little moments in nature. Thanks, everyone.
That's amazing. That was I wanted to call it a moss media presentation. Would that be?
Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah, sorry. With the Pecha Kucha event I went to, there was a man called James Barrett who talked about nature and stuff like that and the connectivity that we have with our relationship. And he said sometimes that if you notice a plant, that plant is actually noticing you. And that stuck with me. And then I've had a weird relationship with the tree, which is in Warwickshire ever since. So
I love it. That's
amazing.
It's great.
Said too much.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. So our next speaker is the last speaker before our break. Dennis Klein and I met working on holidays for people with and without disability, and I just think that's something that's worth mentioning because of Dennis's subject. He's a high school teacher living in Tübingen in Germany, so he's travelled today for our presentation. He's visited 23 countries on 6 continents, from the deserts of India, Australian outback, South American jungle to the South African townships. Wherever he was on these travels, he met people who are disabled and people who work for accessibility. Carrying his camera in his backpack, along with his own past, his travels culminated in a film which he called Humanness. As a child, Dennis was afraid of people with disabilities because he didn't know any. Many encounters and changed that, and over the years, friendships have become really important. Whilst traveling around the world, difficult questions arose for him. Who are we for each other? What makes us human? Why do we treat ourselves differently? He came home from his travels with stories in his luggage and with the knowledge that asking the right questions is not always enough. It also depends on how we answer them. So Dennis, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Hello. It's
Hello.
very hard to say that all in English. It's better to say it in my, but I'm trying to do my best now. Yeah. Okay, I'm able to start. I think so.
Yeah, we really appreciate that you're doing this in English. Thank you. So I will go to that. I will mute myself and then start with the next slide, which will be your first one.
Thanks a lot for being part of it. Well, actually, as Sarah said, as a child, I was scared of people with disabilities. So whenever I encountered someone with a visible impairment, I felt nervous and often changed my path. I can't reason the beginning of development of this strange fear in me, but maybe the way they walked and talked that terrified me a lot. And as I grew, this fear did diminish, but I fell into the so-called normal world. I started ridiculing and denigrating people with disabilities as the others did. Well, actually, I didn't know anybody with a disability, and in those days, there was no real encounter. But that was actually a long time ago. As you heard, I'm part of this leisure camp where I met Sarah, and I'm part of this for 17 years. So that's actually my way I want to talk with you. And this also brought me to a very long trip, because seeing my friends struggling to be noticed and having the same possibilities to life in a self-determined with less barriers, that gave me a deep impulse to get along with that and breaking out of my normal world. So I just want to tell you a story about Shruti, who I met her actually by accident in India, and she's the founder of the community-based rehabilitation program, which is settled in Kulu. And she is a Brahman, a very high Brahman and privileged person from India. And I met her there, and she quit her scholarship in the United States because of a very interesting story I want to tell you, and it's all about encounter and dignity. So, and now I realize I have this whole text on my side, so just leave it away. What you see in front of you now is a big door, and not a small door. And a couple of years ago, Shruti, she came along with her bicycle and wanted to take a picture from the rooftop. So she asked this woman from this house if she could go inside, going up the stairs and taking a picture from the balcony. And she's an autism therapist. And while she was sitting at the balcony and taking a picture of her friends, she found this girl in the background called Sonali. And meanwhile, we are talking in this interesting conversation here. I'm giving you some ideas about my trip. She still sits in a house for the last 18 years. So when we're talking about, Corona, whatever, this girl is hidden by her family for the last 18 years because of her disability. And because of the connection between Shruti and Sonali, Shruti was so touched by this moment that she actually kicked her scholarship in the United States and saying, I just want to leave Bombay and just want to go up to the mountains and helping people like Sonali. So that's what she actually did. So she left her completely alive to get in contact with this completely unknown girl who was not able to speak in that moment. She actually even didn't know that she has a name for herself or couldn't say which kind of colors are around her. It's weird because I don't know which kind of connection they have between them, but there was some big connection between these two girls. They were meant to see each other. They couldn't have, this couldn't be another way like this. Because also Shruti said that she's completely glad that this girl came into her life and to give her life a different kind of purpose. And she could not imagine how it would have been if she wouldn't have met Sonali that day. Because she said, there's this nice sentence, she said, I wouldn't have experienced so many things I have felt because I decided to do something about Sonali. And that's because of this. She just rebuilt this amazing program about this community-based rehabilitation program, which means that she is educating local women in her area that they can go out in the mountains and meeting people like Sonali or these two girls and to give them different opportunities for learning, walking, talking, and behavior in the normal world they really want to be with. So actually, this Indian woman started a process that does not come from a state initiative. This part was designed by the people who have observed and recognized the problems in their area and become active. So sometimes it's because of these many small decisions that social development can start in those areas. And on my trip around the world, I encountered many such people and projects who are working towards a better life situation for people with disabilities like Sonali, just because it seemed to be necessary. So anyone who presents himself polite loses discomfort when they actually connect with each other. That's why I really love this project you make a part, that I could part of it as well. If you find a language or a way to each other, we start to recognize the other people. And as a key to the world, it's my human understanding. So no, that's just talking. And so, and now what you see in the background is one of the Daystar schools where the people coming together. And we're talking about inclusion in Germany. We always talk about money, but the people there, they just talk about the people. And if you talk about the people and having in the focus their dignity, their encounters between the people, the friendship, this all creates humanness. Because then it doesn't matter which kind of person you are, because every person we meet in life, they can have a deep impact on our way and open new doors. So there are no useless persons on this planet. So everybody can shape the life of another person. So that's actually my message to you. A friend of mine who's actually the founder of this leisure camp told me that you can find inclusion on those places where you are not talking about it. So I found those amazing places wherever, where each child is individually supported in his or personal abilities, especially here in India, on this physiotherapy center, which you can see. And it's actually regardless who you are. So together, I think we create a new consciousness. I actually can't say this, consciousness. And so they slowly began to change. These stories must be told and also must be told to you because they are courageous, because they're shown how easy you can actually shape your world. And if you really want to get in contact with the people, maybe you have interest in this movie, please join this project. I think it could be another opportunity to learn from each other. Thanks a lot. That's it.
Great stuff, Dennis. That was truly
Fantastic.
magnificent.
Kann ich wieder Deutsch reden? Yeah, it's so
We'll
hard.
put a link in the chat to Dennis's video on YouTube, yeah?
Yeah.
That would be great. Wow, thank you, Dennis. It's really nice to hear you talk about it in this way, because obviously I've heard little bits about your project before, but not about that specific story. So thank you very much. It's really good to see. So now it's actually time for the break. So feel free to top up your drinks.
We do know that some of the people have been drinking some very fancy things. Someone early in the comments was on Prosecco with homemade pizza. Ooh, fancy. That might have won the who's got the fanciest drink, although someone also name checked some locally produced cider if you're in the Leamington area. So I'm going to go and get a coffee, and because I've got a soda stream, I'm experimenting with that with a thing I'm calling Kafifi, which is fizzy coffee, which might be the new hipster sensation. So I'll report back on that shortly.
Amazing. Go get your fizzy coffee.
It was really good. It was really nice to listening to everybody like this, because it's just giving us it's a quick feedback also. I think it's really lovely, and the comments I'm reading are really coming out very nicely, isn't it? Thank you for spoken. Really great. Thank you. Really great.
It's great to see. I haven't been watching the comments. I've been watching my phone to make sure that something happens every 20 seconds. So if people have seen interesting comments, by all means, let us know now. This is a good moment to discuss that.
I think we need to do favourite plants, Yul.
Sorry, Bracey, can you say that a bit louder?
We need to do favourite plants, don't we?
Favourite plants, of course. Matt.
A few comments about that, yeah.
Did someone say potato?
Yeah, me.
Wow.
I'm a fan of a dahlia. I'll say that. I look at dahlias come in many forms and they're all beautiful.
Oak tree has been a very much famous. Oak tree has been very famous. Oak tree.
Matt.
I love all these ones. Yeah, keep them coming.
It's a difficult one. I can think of a lot. Like the fact that coffee was just mentioned, that's a good one. Be nice to don't really think of it as a plant. Chocolate, cocoa, it's a good plant.
Robert Plant, no one's mentioned him for reasons I'm not sure.
That's terrible.
I know.
Someone watching the YouTube channel, can they mute it? Is it me that's only here? Maybe it's me hearing voices in my head. Anyway, they've probably muted it now.
It might have been, might be Lucy in the background.
Yeah, we've got, there's 111 people because about 25 of them have just gone off to get a beverage. But we've got a good steady number and there's a lot of positive comments coming in. And we've got people, we've got Japan and North Carolina in the house as well, I believe. So we're global, everybody.
Really cool.
Lola is trending. Lola's #4 trending topic on Twitter right now.
As she should be.
Yeah, quite rightly. The rest of us should just get the bus home, I think.
Yeah.
If
When
we weren't
Lola was
already.
speaking, it was the 138. The top was the 138 when Lola was on online. That one we topped up to 138.
Amazing. Lola, thank you.
Claire is her aunt, but also her agent. So if you want to talk to Lola, you have to talk to her first, I'm afraid.
I will go and get some drink also myself.
Yeah,
a bit nice.
please do. So I'm quite shocked. I've just looked at the ticket website where people have been donating money, and if I'm reading this correctly, it was about £800 a couple of hours ago. It's now gone up to, if I'm right, 1,100.
Hey!
You guys are amazing.
It's fantastic.
Hey, that's
brilliant.
fantastic.
Garima, I will definitely be watching your YouTube, and I will definitely be doing something. I have no green papers at all.
No, listen, it's really easy. You know why? Now wherever I look, I see seeds and things that I can cut and put in the water, and it's fantastic, and they grow really fast. So we have now I'm growing mushrooms and radishes, and I don't know, just every dandelions. So we went to walk in the woods and we collected dandelions, because you can eat the greens and the roots. You can make coffee, you can make tea with the flowers. So I think the more you get into it, you just start looking around and say, wow, I can eat so much.
Did you literally cut a potato? Did you literally cut a potato in half and put it in some tomato in half and put it in some soil?
I just and they've all sprouted, so it's fantastic. Because last time I got plucked plants, but I couldn't get this time, and I literally just put them in the soil, and they're all and then I made a upside down tomato planter, and so I'm gonna hang some, and I'm gonna grow some. So it's endless what you can do, you know.
Garima, do you plant them all in your kind of special soil, like?
You know what? It's nothing. It's just all my kitchen leftovers, and I had soil from last year, or a couple of bags of soil, and it just keeps growing because I layer them in the pots or whatever I do. I put the kitchen leftovers, some soil, kitchen leftovers, and the soil is very rich, so it just grows really well.
I think that's your secret. That's why we all the rest of us fail, and you've got
no. Well, it's nothing fancy. It's really simple. But the funniest thing is my husband, he just took coconut water and he made his own alcohol, because we ran out of alcohol. So he's been growing yeast. So you can do all kinds of funny things.
PK Leamington for both.
But you know, it's my daughter walks out and eats from the garden all the time. She knows the herbs.
And then you can also, it'll also be announced.
Sarah, we can hear you.
Sarah.
When Paul's back, because basically our next speaker is Paul. So now that he's back, I know that.
I heard about the spring onions the other day, and I was like, "Shut up, spring onions! They just keep on growing, or whatever." Between that and then tardigrades that can live in space, I feel like, is this all just one big joke? Really?
It's crazy. We literally grow overnight, like an inch. I mean, you just have to put them in water, the roots. That's all. And you know. Then
I think the spring onion industry has been suppressing that information.
Right. On that note, I'm going to interject. That's amazing, Garima. But just to keep momentum going, and I can see that one of our very important people is back that we need. Hi, Paul. So if everyone's okay, it would be good to start and be back from our break. It's going so well, and I really appreciate everything that you guys are all doing. So I'm going to share the screen again, so you'll see me messing around with the screen, and we will start if that's okay with everyone. So once I start, if you can also mute yourselves as you have been doing. You guys are fab.
So if you get the chance to post your social media links in the chat for your newfound fans, that might be a smart thing to do as well, to be honest. Hashtag Garima's compost is also a hashtag now.
Brilliant.
So I think after Paul, isn't it? I'm after Paul, right?
That's right, Dab, you are. Yeah. Without further ado, I will introduce Paul. So if everyone else apart from Paul can mute themselves. So Paul Sharp is a chartered engineer, and he's been working in the field of finite element analysis for 22 years. A year ago, Paul spoke at the Leamington Pecha Kucha about designing cars to withstand accidents. His subject today involves a little less safety requirements. It's typewriter art. And outside of work, his interests include going to gigs, watching motorsport, building Lego models, and of course, knitting. We met at a knitting group. I just have to add that in. So Paul, thank you so much for being here. I hope, can we hear you?
Yes, I think
Yes?
so. Or you should
Excellent.
be able to.
Brilliant. So I'll mute myself, and then when you're ready to go, let me know.
Okay. Right, let's go then. So yeah, as Sarah said, I'm Paul. I'm going to talk to you tonight about what to do with a letter 22. A little bit cryptic, but you might get a clue from my title slide here. I'm going to be talking to you about a hobby that I've got into over the last couple of years, which is making art with a typewriter. So what is a letter 22? Well, it's a metal portable typewriter that was designed by Marcello Nizzoli for Olivetti around 70 years ago now. And it comes in a pretty leather carry case. It weighs about 3.7 kilos. So it's not light by modern laptop standards, but pretty good for a typewriter. It's got some really neat design features, such as the ability to stand on its back against the wall, freeing up desk space when you're not using it. And it was also available in a really wide range of cool colors. So it was kind of like the iMac of its day. There's even an example in the Museum of Modern Art in New York, and it was awarded the Compasso d'Oro Italian Industrial Design Prize. Owners of it have included Leonard Cohen, Will Self, William Burroughs, and Tom Hanks. You might know him as a Hollywood actor, but he's also an author, and he even wrote a book of short stories called Uncommon Type, where all the stories have got a link with a typewriter. I can highly recommend it. It's really, really good read. Other owners included the German author Günter Grass, who actually had 3 of them, one for each of his 3 homes, which sort of defeats the purpose of having a portable, but never mind. And many journalists and reporters used them as their travel machines throughout the 60s and 70s. It said that the first reports of Kennedy's assassination were typed on a letter 22. So why do I have one? Well, I've always enjoyed collecting weird and wonderful pieces of industrial design, such as these egg grading poises and the mesoheliomatic cine camera in this top image here. And my friends Emily and Nick gave it to me 3 years ago as a birthday present because they thought I would appreciate a design classic typewriter, and they were right. So letter 22s were made from about 1953 to 1963 in several factories around the world. My particular example was made in Olivetti's UK factory in Glasgow. And you can tell it's from later in the production run because it's got squarer rather than round keys. Okay, so I've got this lovely typewriter. What do I do with it? It's kind of big to go on the shelf for my other collectibles. I could use it, but I'm not a writer and not even much of a typist. But one thing you might not know is that people have made art with typewriters for almost as long as there's been typewriters. This portrait of Tom Hanks, not by me, was made by a contemporary British artist, James Cook. He creates these amazing artworks by freehand layering and shading with a typewriter. And you can see more of his work at his website or on Instagram at James Cook Artwork. My artistic talents don't exactly run to this level. However, there is another way. ASCII art, where you take an image and convert it into sort of pixels, but using text instead. My dad used to print out pictures of Mickey Mouse on a printer at work when I was little. And here you see an example of Sarah's cat, Mr. Pork Pie, converted into text form with a close-up of his ear there on the right-hand side. So these were some of my first efforts using that text as kind of like a pattern. Created a giraffe card, X-Wing for my brother, and even some simple Christmas card for families and friends. But what else can you do? You are somewhat limited by only having 100 or so characters across the page. But I tried cars. I found that by turning the image around and typing the car end to end, you can generate a really good effect. And this Citroën DS was the first one I tried. It takes about 2 or 3 hours to create an image, but I find it really therapeutic, and it didn't take long before I wanted to try another one. So the next car I did a few months later was my own old car, a Corvette 1969 C3, long since sold, sadly. And I really enjoyed doing that too. But these are pretty big. They're nearly 2 feet long, and I can only get away with putting so many of them up on the wall in my own house. So I didn't do any more until early last year when I set up an Etsy shop. Etsy is an online marketplace for artists where they can sell their artworks. I wasn't doing this really to make money, just as an excuse or a reason to make more of the car pictures that I enjoyed doing. Although I did quite enjoy setting up the shop too and having an online presence. So I listed copies of the first 2 cars that I'd done because I could do those already, but then I started doing other cars that were some of my favorites. This is a Porsche 917 that raced in Can-Am racing in the early 70s before being banned for being too powerful and dangerous. My picture there is from the Classic Motor Show at the NEC last year. Another car I love is this Mazda 787B. This picture I took at the Le Mans Drivers Parade in 2011. It was the first Japanese car to win Le Mans in 1991, still the only rotary engine car to do so. It sounds just incredible, and I love its orange and green livery. A couple of years ago, I went to the Daytona 24-hour race with my brother, and some of my photos from that provided me with some more inspiration. At the top there's a modern Corvette C7 that raced in the event, and another classic Porsche that was on display. This one raced in Le Mans in 1978, reaching 228 miles an hour on the straights, but it was unreliable and only finished 8th. Not all the cars I did were race cars though. Here you can see a classic Fiat 500. And in a nice circularity there, in Italian, they're called Topolino or Mickey Mouse, linking back to those pictures that my dad did for me when I was little. And below that, there's a classic 911, which is one of my favorite cars. So after 6 months or so, I created 10 new pictures, which was great. And something happened that was a really nice shock. In August, somebody actually bought something from my shop, and they were based in Paris. Another couple of sales followed later that year, one to Chicago and another to Colombia. I was just really happy that someone liked what I'd done and really excited to make a sale. So at the back end of last year, I set up my own website at letterart.co.uk, and I started taking commissions too. So please do visit and take a look. Sales are suspended currently due to the difficulty of posting stuff out in the current situation, but I continue to make new pictures. So thank you all for listening. And I would encourage you all just to try doing something new and different and creative. Especially while you're stuck at home. You don't need to be super artistic to have fun with it. Thank you.
Fantastic. Now, I've got 2 questions, if I'm allowed.
Okay.
One, what are egg grading poises?
They're really pretty colours. They're like a lovely kind of anodized aluminium in kind of like a range of kind of greens and reds. They're just like a really tactile, lovely thing to look at. What they were used for is, you know, when you buy your eggs, you get medium eggs and large eggs. Well, back in the 60s and 70s, they actually used to be given numbered sizes. So those of us that are old enough used to remember you'd get size 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 eggs. And the machines that graded them, obviously the companies or the farmers that were selling the eggs couldn't be seen to be selling the wrong size of eggs. So they had machines that graded them. And those poises are actually used to check that the machine was grading the eggs to the correct size. So they were actually something that was carried around by the local sort of trading standards officer to check that the egg grading machines were working correctly.
Amazing. And then my other question is, for those busy people on the go who don't have time to read a book, is it true these are also available in audio format? A, small a, / ampersand.
Yeah, it's you need to have quite a creative mind to kind of
you know,
translate
there's a market
that.
there.
Yeah, maybe if I could get Stephen Fry to read them, they could, you know, be out there. But we'll
Perfect.
See. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. So our next speaker is Dav Kerr. She is a creative marketer and social activist. She's connecting communities with her digital marketing skills and love for food. She's a lead director, or she is the lead director, I should say, for TEDx Coventry, and volunteers for women organisations in Coventry as well. She wants to create a sustainable community, harnessing the skills of young people and of women. So Dav, welcome. It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
Let me know when you're ready.
Yes, I'm ready. Thank you. Oh, hi everybody, and thanks Sarah and Jamie for introducing me. My name is Dav, and on the screen what you see is me with my family and friends. I'm a self-confessed positively obsessed person, but this COVID-19 and the new social distancing and everything else we've been talking about has made me think again that I'm a really positive person. Um, okay, I'm not trying to scare anybody over here because Sarah made it very clear, don't do any scary stuff over here. So I'm just online and social media is doing that job very well at the moment, so I'm not going to talk about all that. What I'm here to talk about is a new world order. When we have been, after all this is finished and when we are going to be let out into society and in the communities, what world would we like to change for, and how importantly we want it to change now? That is what I want to know in a new world, how we are going to perceive it in the future, how we are going to live with the future. So let's talk about first before this COVID-19 happened and how we were behaving. So I'm sure many of you will agree that we had everything in abundance, we took everything for granted, and then we considered that we are constants, that neither theory or practice can ever challenge us. But all these fundamentals, do you think it has been shaken now? So in this picture in front of you, will see that we had 400 to 600 friends on Facebook, but we were so disconnected with our own families, friends. We had no time for our elderlies. We had no time for even our children. So we were living in a very disconnected world. Climate change, bushfires, forest, and wildlife disappearing in front of us were screaming at us and shouting us to slow down, but we were not listening. So as I said in the beginning, I'm not here to scare you guys. I'm not here to scare you anyone. So the fun part is that I'm a hugger and I love hugging people. And now I'm just thinking, in the new world, am I going to be very scared of hugging people? Or do I have to invent a virtual hug or a 2 meter apart hug? I'm still working on it. So it's a question for you all. How are you going to hug people when you're going to be let out? During the lockdown or cocooning, poor parents had nowhere to run from writing hungry kids. I've seen them jumping on their heads on the Zoom meetings, and homeschooling became a mission impossible. And I know many parents were having nightmares. But we suddenly became part of our family. We were cooking from scratches, we were doing everything together, and we were happy. We all became master chefs. We were eating mummies and daddy's horrible food, but we were still happy because we had no option. McDonald's, KFC were all closed down. So we became connected again with each other. So I just observed that we were all hoarders. We were like ordering everything online so easily that we never looked into a wardrobes or cupboards or pantries to see how much actually we do have. And I'm sure this couple of weeks have made us realize that we have a lot of stuff and we have cleared our wardrobes and clutter free. Now, let's talk about post now. So have we changed our priorities now? What our priorities have changed now? Have we started looking at the things more differently than we were looking before 4 or 5 weeks when we're not having this COVID or this social distancing? Are we going to be adapting a very slower pace of life, that we are not rushing around and we are not making deadlines and stress and day-to-day life so stressful for ourselves? Are we going to be doing that? So how we are going to manage our life and how we are going to manage our work balance? Now, other thing I've noticed is that there is a relationship between our science and God has changed. Religious people have started using masks and sanitizers, and West has said that science do have limitations. And overnight, we became a welfare state. NHS became our lifeline. Suddenly, there was a political willingness to help masses, and the rule books, which were there for many, many years, just started to vanish away. So the point is, what is new order? Can we live without leaving too much carbon footprints? Do we really need all that stuff we were having before? Can we just live with what we need? Can we live with this nature, which is cleaner, which is birds singing, and we have been given this chance to look at the nature in a different way? last few weeks, I have witnessed that, many heroics, stories about NHS, about the bin collectors, and everything else. And I just came upon this very nice quote which says, "I store my surplus grain in my neighbor's belly," which is very urgent to say that, we've been helping strangers more than we ever did. Other thing what I found was that, we can have a very inclusive and healthy communities where we can give chances to people who have got mental health issues, disabilities, and everything else. Remote working does work. Look, we are doing this Pecha Kucha online, and we are having people connected with us through virtually and looking at this. So why can't we give chance to those people to be connected with everybody, even if they have got issues? So, we are appreciating nature more, which is great. We are just going for more walks. One walk every day has been like a blessing for us at this time. Okay, so change is inevitable, and all I'm asking is that how we are going to be making ourselves adaptable, how we are going to live in this new world. Are we going to change, or are we going to be the same when we go out? And all the factors are changing, and how we are going to be adapting them. So thank you very much for listening to me, and I leave you on a very lighter note that we're living in a Las Vegas now, where we have got no money, but we are drinking when we want to drink, we are sleeping when we want to sleep, and we don't know what day is it. Thank you very much again for listening to me, and stay safe. Thanks.
I think that's a fascinating talk. I think the issue is that we've still got other presenters, otherwise we could start talking about this and finish at 3 a.m. or something or other. But definitely food for thought. We can but hope, right? We can but hope.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. So our next speaker is Phil Olsen. Phil, I just want to check that you're there because I can't see everyone all at the same time. And just say a word.
Yes, I'm here.
Phil is here. Brilliant. So just to introduce you, Phil is a short story writer from Liverpool. He enjoys finding the absurd in the everyday. His interests include modernist architecture, faded seaside towns, and easily dismissible coincidences. Phil has a creative writing MA from the University of Manchester's Centre for New Writing. He's the fiction editor at Sabotage Reviews. He's won several flash fiction competitions and was a finalist in the NYC Midnight, I'm going to say that more slowly, in the NYC Midnight Short Story Challenge in both 2018 and 2019. So welcome, Phil. Thank you for coming over from Liverpool, and let me know when you're ready to go.
Okay. Yeah, so this is a sort of story that I'm just going to go straight into. So I'll start whenever the slide starts. So. Okay. A lost Lido and an accidental time slip. I have swum in many interesting waters, from the deep inlet of Dublin Bay's 40 foot to Keflavik's warm, sulphurous blue lagoon, from a Firth of Forth Looney Duke to the seaweed-strewn tidal Lido in Granville, Normandy, and Woolton Baths, where John Lennon and Paul McCartney once swam. But I never did get to experience Britain's largest aquatic stadium, New Brighton's Art Deco open-air pool. Opened in 1934 by Lord Leverhulme, for 56 years, it occupied the corner of the Wirral Peninsula where the Irish Sea meets the River Mersey. If you could still climb up the pool's 5-tier diving board today, it would offer views of Liverpool's 8 giant red shipping cranes, and with a bit of squinting, Anthony Gormley's 100 Iron Men over on Crosby Beach. Alas, the Lido was badly damaged by a storm in 1990 when the Mersey burst its banks. As a seaside resort, New Brighton had already had its day. The tower, the ballroom, the pier were all long gone. Martin Parr's famous 1986 photo series was titled The Last Resort. The area might make a comeback, but this is where the baths would leave the picture. For the next 2 decades, the site would remain a grassy wasteland until the redevelopment of Marine Point, which brought with it a Morrison's supermarket, a light cinema, a travel lodge, and a pedestrianised stretch of restaurants arcing around one one end of the marine lake. This New Brighton is the place that I moved to a few years ago, and the only version of the place that I've ever really known. I often try to picture what went where in old New Brighton. The Trocadero Cinema and the Tivoli Theatre, both now replaced by red brick housing. The Art Deco arcades cling on, but not for much longer. When I walk down the freezer aisle of Morrison's, I wonder if any of the frozen desserts line up with where ice creams might have once been held aloft by children in the Lido. A lager and lime ghost ice lolly hovering over this box of almond magnums. Do any of the Travelodge beds point in the same direction as sun loungers once did around the pool? Would pairs of eyes in any of the Lights 8 cinema screens be looking at where the Miss New Brighton contest was once held? Black and white pictures in the magazine Pub and Remember When Cafe help me piece places together, as do laminated newspaper articles on blue pin boards in the Heritage Centre at the back of St James's Church, open Saturdays 11 till 1. But the shots are usually from the same angle, the best vantage point. No one thought to document the less photogenic views, the bland walls and the plain streets, the joining up shots. New Brighton is enjoying a bit of a renaissance at the moment. Colourful murals are being painted above Victoria Road shop fronts and on the gable ends of nearby terraced houses. A closed down pub on a hidden corner becomes a trompe-l'oeil of a bright green heritage tram. And this is with the arrival of these frescoes that had me trying to remember what the original walls looked like and how quickly I'd forgotten. So I took a tour of my neighbourhood with the little orange avatar in Google Street View. Sure enough, the last time a Google Street View car had done a circuit of these streets was a couple of years ago. And here were some of the bland walls and the plain streets, circa 2018. I went for more of a wander, dragging and dropping my little orange man. A builder takes a cigarette break outside the house he's long since sold. A jogger in red and white stripes coordinates with the shipping crane. And one of the painted mermaid sculptures has her face auto-blurred to protect her identity. And then something happens. I head down the hill with my orange avatar towards the roundabout and Marine Point and the Morrisons. The Bella Italia glitches and becomes Brooklyn's Cafe. Captured July 2012. I clip closer to the roundabout, step closer to the arc of restaurants, and then whoosh, I have slipped back in time. There is no Morrison's here, no Travelodge or cinema. Even Brooklyn's has now disappeared completely. I slowly move around to face where the supermarket should be, and I find myself looking at a grassy wasteland, captured October 2008. An expanse of sunken grass where the world's biggest Lido used to sit. Beyond the unkempt dips, I see the twin tower blocks of the cliff in the distance. I turn to face Merino Lounge and Prezzo, but the restaurants have all gone, and I'm staring across the marine lake. I'm not standing by glassy mixed retail units. I'm standing on potholed grey tarmac, a stretch of road that existed when Google streetcars first took a drive around Britain in the late noughties, but there's been pedestrianised since 2011. I edge back towards the roundabout, and I'm met with a glass screen, the kind that Google Street View presents when you reach a dead end. I'm trapped in the past. The only way out is round the back and along the prom. A glitch of goods entrance, the boxy complex pops up, and I'm back in the present, or near enough. There must be more of these asphalt slips in time, where old through red roads divert. The time slips won't last forever, nothing does. But while they do, we can go and explore places that we missed first time round, sharing lager and lime ghost ice lollies with our orange avatars as we go. Thank you.
So good. Also coincided with that lovely second glass of wine buzz to create. I did just want to point out that Phil and I are different people. We may look the same. And I also wanted to know why it is that lager and lime lollipops seem to be a thing of the past, but rum and raisin ice cream sort of prevails. What's that all about, man?
I know, they need to bring them back. And cider apple.
Amazing.
Phil, that was brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, a lot of work has gone into that. So our next speaker is Matt Cox. Matt, just say a little hello so I know that you're here. Let's unmute Matt. Matt, we just need to, I'm going to unmute you.
I can see him.
I can see him. He's there.
He's a very handsome man.
Hi, Matt. You're there.
You can hear me?
Excellent. Brilliant. So our next speaker is Matt Cox. He's based in Warwick. He's a freelance outdoor instructor who locally runs intervention programs for young people. Matt is an advocate of how we can feel more connected to life by getting closer to nature. So Matt, it's all yours now. Let me know when you're ready.
Okay, ready. So I've been struggling to buy seeds for online. I had a look, and sure enough, the Royal Horticultural Society and National Vegetable Society have reported a substantial increase in people starting to grow their own veg for the first time. Thankfully, there's still plenty of food available during the lockdown, but it seems has got us all thinking maybe a bit more about where our food comes from. And I suppose we're right to do so, because the UK has lost 84% of its fertile topsoil since 1850, and that's continuing to degrade at a rate of 1 to 3 centimetres a year. And that's large-scale agriculture depleting our ability to grow food. And I went on a course recently to learn about something called permaculture, and I was really inspired by what people were doing in relation to making agriculture and growing food more regenerative. So I'm going to share a little bit about that now and tell you about it. Permaculture sort of says that we should observe and interact with natural systems to work with them rather than trying to control them, as per the industrial model that we have now. And what I'm going to share with you is a few of some observable principles in nature which you might find interesting and that you might be able to apply if you're growing your own vegetables and food. So here we go. The first principle is about cycles, which is how we describe the flow of energy and resources in systems. And this is a picture of the human production model, which takes resources, mostly fossil fuels and things like that, and creates waste in a linear fashion. By comparison, this is the biological cycle of nature, and nothing is ever wasted. Waste products are gifts for other organisms in the system, so it's recycled constantly, and all the elements, all the different things in there are using the sun. Edges represent the interface where ecosystems exchange energy, and they are really active and fertile spaces, so nature tends to maximize edge space. So straight lines are actually quite boring, so you can maximize your edge space in gardens to help boost productivity. And the same can be true for patterns. So observing patterns is a great way of seeing how nature uses patterns and shapes to create efficiencies. This nautilus shell that you can see maximizes space in its structure. And nature also shows a tendency towards greater diversity. all the time, complexity and diversity. Bare rocks are colonized by mosses and lichens. It builds soil, and it can take centuries to reach forests and really complex ecosystems. If we take that knowledge and apply it, we can actually achieve amazing things. And this is a project in China where they restored the land in a matter of years from wasted agricultural land, just using these principles of succession that I just spoke about in the last slide. It was really incredible. So nature also likes to fill every available niche and makes the most of the vertical space. And we can see that in this diagram here. And using this principle, you can actually create, even small spaces, you can grow more and have lots more growing in your garden. So here's an example of a monoculture on the left, which is one crop, oilseed rape, quite a familiar sight at the moment. And on the right, we've got agroforestry attempting to use stacking and growing multiple things in one space to increase what can be grown in that space. So what stacking is also about, it's about creating relationships between plants and not necessarily, diversity is important, but not necessarily the number of individual plants and things, but the relationships between them is really important. And for example, there's this oak tree that you can see in the woodland is able to support up to 900 different species, and it can help maintain soil structure, temperature and light conditions in the canopy. So it does lots of different things within the natural ecosystem. However, for bluebells to grow, for example, you don't just need one oak tree to create those conditions. You need lots and lots of different trees all working together in the same place to create a canopy and a stable environment for those to grow in. So that's like cooperation. And the same pattern of cooperation between species supports life as a whole, and understanding these better beneficial relationships is really useful when choosing what plants to grow in your garden. So you can see some of the different functions that plants can provide to support each other. And nature is not also something separate from us. So when we've lost our connection to nature, we've actually lost our connection to ourselves. So I suppose, I hope what these principles show us is not just what we can learn from nature, but that these principles of embracing diversity, cooperating, valuing the margins, being resilient and integrating rather than segregating are things that we can sort of take away into our own lives. And everybody has the power to do that. If they've just got a windowsill or they're growing something in the garden, you can create that harmony and contribute hopefully towards some regeneration yourself. So thank you.
Good job. If only you'd have known about Garima's talk from earlier, you definitely wouldn't have been as worried about seed shortages as you were back then. So I think we've pretty much, when people are watching this video in the far future, they'll know that this evening was the point at which the world changed for the better. Am I right? Right.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Matt. It was really good to think more about it. It's something that I'd like to learn a lot more about. So we have one more speaker now. It's Claire Williams. So Claire, are you there? Say hello.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. So I'm just going to introduce you now. So Claire Williams' talk is about the time she said yes to a challenge. This challenge was set by a friend, and she found herself swimming halfway to France. As a physio specialising in complex trauma rehabilitation and co-founder of the adaptive sports charity Access Adventures, Claire knows the importance of leaving your comfort zone, as well as knowing how hard that can sometimes be. She also has a habit of saying yes before thinking through the consequences, which is how she ended up being here this evening. So Claire, thank you for being here.
Thank you, I think.
Let me know when you're ready.
Yeah, I guess better now than let's go. So my story starts with a drink. So if you have one at home, cheers. My good friend Jeanette knows I'm, despite being very, very indecisive, I've got a habit of saying yes to things that challenge and scare me a bit. So after several cocktails on her 40th birthday, she told me she had a challenge in mind, but it involved both of us. One bad hangover, and just a few short days later, I had parted with several £100s of my hard-earned cash as a deposit, and we were all signed up to do a 2-person relay swim of the English Channel without wetsuits. I was still a bit clueless as to all the details. That's definitely Jeanette's department, but it was 18 months away, so I had ages to prepare, right? We took this on as a personal challenge and we covered our own costs, but it seemed like a great opportunity to raise some money for charity. We decided to fundraise for Access Adventures, the adaptive sports charity I co-founded a few years earlier with my friends Jane and Tim that you see here. Our aim is to improve the quality of life for people with physical disabilities and to make outdoor adventure accessible and affordable for all. We support people with physical disabilities to push themselves outside their comfort zones, building confidence and inspiring positivity. Every camp is a brilliant reminder that sometimes all any of us needs is the right support and encouragement, and it's amazing what we can achieve. There's a lot of things I didn't know about swimming the Channel at this point, one being that it's the busiest shipping lane in the world with over 500 tankers and ferries passing through it every day, a lot of really big boats. So you need an escort boat to navigate the traffic, negotiate the tides, manage safety, make sure you follow the rules. There's also a lot of unknowns about the big day itself. You don't know exactly when you swim because it's weather dependent. You don't know how far you swim because although the shortest route is about 22 miles, you can't go in a straight line because of the current, which also means you don't know where you land. So there was no chance of a bottle of champagne and a croissant waiting for me at the end. But I did know I was scared. There was a long list of things I was worried about. Would I be fit enough? Could I handle the cold? Would I get seasick? Would I get eaten by jaws? I knew the mental challenge was going to be as big as the physical one, or probably even bigger. There's no specific training manual to follow. The advice is to do whatever works for you, whatever that means. So we took a fairly relaxed approach. As you can see, we had some encouraging training experts. We both had done some open water swimming before, but always with wetsuits. So we just slowly got rid of the wetsuits, increased our distance, did 10 kilometers, a night swim, just progressed our way through. There was a lot of advice about gaining weight for insulation, which we took very seriously. We ate a lot of cake and always had huge breakfasts after our early morning swims, dressed for winter while everyone else was sunbathing. And we were good, but not completely teetotal. We didn't want it to take over our lives. As our 2-week swim window approached, we became completely obsessed with the weather. We needed the right combination of calm winds timed with the tides, but the forecasters kept changing. It was really frustrating. We were also following all the other swim attempts going on, and there were lots of successes, but lots of abandoned swims too, which just made us more and more anxious. After 4 or 5 days of waiting, which felt like forever, we ended up with only 4 hours of notice. Luckily, we were already in Dover and we had just enough time for a cheeky Nando's, a quick nap. We grabbed our bags and went down to the marina. And here we are seeing our boat Anastasia for the first time and looking nervous. It all felt completely surreal and I felt really, really sick. We would be swimming in strict 2-hour stints for as long as it took us. This is me getting in for the first time. I had to swim to shore, walk clear of the water, turn around and then officially start us off. So at 10 past midnight on the 5th of July last year, we were finally on our way. It was dark, it was cold, the spotlight from the boat was dazzling me, but we were off. And then I saw a dark shadow and felt my first jellyfish sting. I had 3 in that first swim, which I thought was pretty unlucky, but my next swim, I lost count. It was like jellyfish soup. It was impossible to avoid them, so you just had to swim straight through. I think I swore at them, not that that helped, but I felt better. I struggled to eat after my first swim, but I had a good sleep. And when I got back in, we were treated to this beautiful sunrise. It made everything feel better. Further into the channel, there were a lot of big boats around, some of them which got pretty close, which meant a lot of swell, and I swallowed a lot of seawater, which was not so nice. Jumping off the boat into the open water was something else I've been really anxious about, but on the day, we just got on with it. The changeovers themselves were quite tricky. We had to get the timing just right. We couldn't touch each other or the boat until the next person was off and swimming, lots of rules. It was also really weird doing this huge challenge together, but completely separately. And kind of a bit like this weird lockdown challenge that we're all in at the moment. During the later breaks, I was up on deck, I was eating, enjoying the sunshine, doing a bit of yoga. Our friends John and James were our support crew, and they were amazing. They had to dress us, feed us, motivate us, wake us up from our naps to start all over again with a swim. And also the support from home was amazing. Swimming is a really solitary sport, but it definitely felt like a team effort. Near the end, I joined Jeanette in the water so we could both swim in, and because we didn't know she'd get to the shore before her 2-hour was up. The water was warm, in fact it felt hot as we approached the coast, escorted by the little rib and swimming past some very confused looking French families enjoying a sunny day at the beach. In the end, we had to swap just before the shore, and the crew encouraged me to sprint, and I almost threw up. But after 16 hours and 6 minutes, we'd done it. This was our swim track, because as you can see, we got pushed really far off course with the tide, and we swam 52 miles in the end. And then you just get back on the boat, turn around and come straight home. We were exhausted, elated, proud of ourselves, but just really relieved that we'd done it. The next morning, after a huge breakfast, we were looking back at France. It still felt surreal, like a dream. My hips and my backs and shoulder ached, but I was exhausted. But other than that, I felt pretty good. The palms of my hands were peeling, and so was my tongue, dehydrated after the hours in salt water. I had a few scary thoughts about a solo attempt, because we'd only done half each, which was kind of cheating, but that didn't last long. I wasn't planning a big challenge for 2020, but here we all are in a crazy situation that's challenging all of us. At Access Adventures, we're working hard to support our community virtually. Jeanette's gone back to ITU nursing in central London. Hopefully we'll be back in the great outdoors soon, and I'd like to challenge all of you to think of something that you might say yes to whenever that happens. Cheers.
What a way to round off the evening.
Amazing.
I'm part of Claire's extended family, and we're all mega proud of her. And we've also got a written rule that at Christmas time, we don't make jokes about her free falling from space, just in case. Just in case. Epic. Well done, Claire, and well done for your presentation, because I believe you were slightly more nervous about that than you were about swimming 50 miles across the channel.
Wow. Oh my gosh, you guys are amazing, all of you. Thank you so much. Feel free to unmute yourselves if you'd like to say anything. We've done our first Pecha Kucha online.
I think we have to give a big round of applause to Sarah and Nick in the background for sorting it out. Come on, everybody, and all of you 98 people on YouTube right now.
You're still with
It's
us.
all
That's
Sarah.
amazing.
People in the future, remember. Amazing.
There's so many people to say thank you to, but there's lots of people who've helped me out, and without saying lots of names, thank you, but especially to the tips that I've had from Mark. And you're still with us, Mark. You're still awake.
Daylight outside, yeah.
Oh my God.
5:35 in the morning. I think I got up at 2:30, yeah. But the presentations have been really stunning, and everybody has got such a great story to tell, and that's the whole point with the Chat. Everybody has something passionate that they can tell, and the images say everything, you know. And I don't want to pull out anybody's presentation because they were all amazing, but I think the last presentation was just incredible to understand that you can the map, or you know, the route where you get sucked and pulled by the tide. I guess that's what was happening there. Was incredible, and it's not swimming straight across the channel. Which is 22 miles. You've got to do 50 odd miles. Amazing. So and that's one of the things too, that you know, everybody can actually step up to a challenge and do something amazing. And it's really amazing that we can share this not only just to Leamington Spa, but not just the UK, but to the rest of the world. And these presentations will be online. We'll put them up onto the permaculture.com, and you'll be able to see them obviously on YouTube. But I want to say a huge thank you to everybody. And you know, I'm going to press the donate button a little bit later. I'm just going to find where it is. But the fact that you've raised over £1,000 is really amazing. I just want to say thank you to you, and also to all of the Warwickshire scrubbers, and to everybody on the front line in the UK. It's really a tough time. Thank you so much.
I want to say thank you to Sarah, because she just manages to bring all kind of people together every time, and it's absolutely amazing. So, and I went for the first Pecha Kucha when I came from New York, and you know, it's really helped me connect, and so thank you to Sarah for always taking the initiative, you know.
No, it's a pleasure. Thank you, Garima. I think that's the thing that's been so nice about this evening, is to connect with all of you guys, even though obviously we're all far apart, or even next door to each other. This is the way that we're connecting currently. So thank you. It's been really good, and thank you to the audience for sticking with us. There's that many people still watching. That's amazing. That's brilliant. I think there's been some talk on the YouTube chat about there possibly being asking if there's another one. So, well, I don't know. I haven't been watching it. So
to keep our eyes out on the old Pecha Kucha Leamington Facebook page, right?
Exactly.
Put your comments down there. Let us know if you want it, and Sarah will bring the magic back. Oh God! All right then. Cheers, everybody.
Yeah, and it's something that I always say at every event. So I know that for my regulars, you're hearing it again. But these guys have spent an awful long time putting together their talks. I think they'll all verify that it takes way longer than they possibly had hoped. So there's a lot of nods going on right now. It really does take a long time to narrow it down and make it so concise, but then also so wonderful to listen to and to watch. So thank you very much for all of your hard work. And I think that's where we say good night to our wonderful audience.
Virtual hugs.
Yeah,
virtual hugs.
Group photo. I'm just going to go panelists.
That's a good idea.
Tokyo, at the end, we do a little what we call banzai in Tokyo. So you hold your hands up like this, and I'm just going to get my phone out of into phone mode here. And I'm going to just screen. What I can do is I'll just. That's a good idea.
Can you do a screenshot and hold your hands up?
Oh, no, that didn't work. That didn't work. Sorry. Oh no.
Like in a W or like.
It's gone crazy.
I think that means whatever. Lola.
I'm not really sure.
3, 2, 1. Banzai!
Banzai!
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well done, everybody.
Well done. Okay, so good night.
Good night, everybody. Good night. Thank you again very much, especially Mark for waking up at night and watching us. Thank you.